the comment I hear consistently from high school coaches is, when I ask, what's the most difficult part of your job? Invariably, it's dealing with parents. And I don't know as there is an exact way to do it, but if you guys could just share some thoughts on what's worked for you, maybe what hasn't worked for you. These young coaches coming into the profession really have no idea what they're in for, none. And if this type of discussion can help them, I think that's really what we need to do. But share with me a couple ideas.
Well, I think it's important for a coach. I think preseason meetings are really important, where you lay the ground rules and expectations. And I think you need to be specific with the ground rules as far as what you're going to tolerate as a coach. And I think everybody's a little bit different that way. Everybody feels a little bit more comfortable with some things. And I think it also depends on, your clientele. Where are you coaching at? What's the, what is the audience? And you need to know that, and you need to get the pulse of that as a coach. But I think Don Meyer had some great things where he said, I will talk to you about anything concerning your kid in terms of their development as a person, but I'm not going to talk about their playing time, and I'm not going to talk about somebody else's kid. And I think if you stick with those two things, and they're very basic, very simple, then I think they know at least up front as parents what they can approach you with. Now, absolutely, they're going to try to say, he's been struggling, and they're going to try to maneuver and get to that point, but then that's your job to be able to say, hey, again, I'm here to help, but we're just not going to talk about playing time right now. And so I think establishing firm ground rules at the beginning, I think, are important.
The first thing I think is key is communication. Having a recently graduated son play for different coaches for the course of 8 years. I think he played for some excellent coaches and some average coaches and some that were not as organized. So I think, first of all, as you're dealing with relationships with parents, communication needs to occur. Ross has run out about preseason parent meeting, getting that information out to them. Here's what we stand for. Here's what our program's about. Letting them know that your program is about something bigger than the game of basketball or the particular sport that you're coaching. I would add one to the three that we don't talk about. We don't talk about playing time, game strategy, and other kids. Playing time is a coach decision. Game strategy, we spend our adult lives studying the game, and we're going to do the best we can to try and help our team. That doesn't mean we're right all the time, but we're going to try to do the best we can. And third, is a confidentiality issue of other kids. So we tell them what they're not going to talk about. We also want to say to parents, what are good questions to ask coaches? What are good things to ask? The first great question, we think, is what is my son's attitude and how's my son's effort? Those are the two things, talking about Coach Meyer, that we all control. Is my son giving maximum effort? Is my son, is his attitude positive, helping the team? Then maybe tied in with that is, and maybe it is out of the season issue, is what are the skills my son needs to improve upon to gain some more playing time? One of the things, thinking about young coaches, I think you're exactly right. Very few coaches get out of the business because the game passes them by, or they're tired of the games, or they're tired of being the coach. They're tired of dealing with what they perceive as pressure from parents. One of the things I think for young coaches is to, and maybe it's a challenge in small towns, is to create a professional distance from parents. I'm a high school teacher. I live in the town that I coach in. I'm very cordial and polite to them. When I see parents, I say hi. I try to give them a compliment about something that their son has done. May or may not be on the court, might be in the classroom, might be in another sport, another activity. But I'm not going to put myself in a setting socially that's going to create the comfort level for a parent to sit and ask those playing time, game strategy, and other kid type of questions that I think ultimately get coaches in trouble. And I think having the distance, from that, I think is really key. And I think that's a hard thing in small towns, and that's a hard thing with young coaches because they enter the business, they have good people skills, they like to talk to people, and they talk too much, and they put themselves in those difficult situations. So it relates to parent meetings. Of course, all of us through the course of our coaching career have had plenty of those. The things that I would tell young parents, one, we schedule the parent meeting at the school, so we have the home field advantage. We put an administrator in the meeting. We involve the parent, we involve the kid, we involve the coach. Those are the 5 key components. If one of those 5 are not present, then the meeting's not taking place. Also, I think one of the red flags for me as a coach is when I hear from a parent, Billy doesn't know that I've called you. Please don't tell him. So then I say to them, am I solving your problem or his problem? I'm not a clinical psychologist. I can't solve their problem, but I can help solve your son's problem. So as we have that meeting, we meet, we have a goal. Why are we here? The first thing we do is we obviously if the parent called the meeting, they have some concerns. We let them go first, and I let them exhaust themselves. They speak until they have no wind left. I take notes during the entire meeting, during the entire presentation. Maybe that makes them a little uneasy because you're taking a record of what they have to say. Then when they get done, I let the kid, is there anything you would like to add to that? And if the child needs to exhaust themselves, usually they don't have much to say. It's usually the parent's concerns. Then we go through each thing point by point. One thing, I think we're very honest. Maybe there's something that happened that we need to apologize for. Maybe we didn't treat a kid in an appropriate manner or said something we shouldn't have said. And if that's the case, we apologize, ask for acceptance, and move on. The other points then, we go through point by point of what their concerns are, ask for them to allow us to speak fully and freely without interruption, because we did the same for them. And I feel like at the end of that, I don't know if people are always looking for resolution, but I think they're looking to be heard. And at the end of that, maybe if the administrator needs to make a comment, and then was our goal met? And is there anything else that you want to add? And I guess my experience has been that the parent has, once they've got to say what they want to say, they've been exhausted through that. I think the prevention of that, I guess the last thing I'd have to say on the topic is, if we effectively communicate with the player, I think we can prevent concerns from the parents. And we say it from this point of view. We spend a half hour in the preseason or sometime early in the season talking about roles. What can each one of you guys do? We do it as a team meeting. Team meeting with the assistants, et cetera. Does anybody have anything to add, delete? Do you have any concerns as a player of that role, et cetera? Then I tell them your assignment tonight is to go home at the dinner table and tell your mother and father what your role is on the team. And I say this very honestly. If they have any concerns about that, this needs to be addressed in the next 24 hours, and after that, that's what that role is going to be, unless something changes on the team, suspension or injury, et cetera. And that forces the player to go home and communicate with his parents. Right. And then I guess if there's ever concern, we just say to the parent, your child loves you more than anybody in the world. He respects his coach, hopefully as much 1A to that. And if you're telling him something different than we're telling him, now you're just putting your child in a difficult, conflictual spot. Please trust us to have the best interests of your child on the team, I guess, in mind, and release them to the coach. We'll do the best we can. At the end of the year, you can have him back, and we'll go from there. So, but I think that communication piece is key. Right. Letting them know here's where we're at, and through the course of the years, I think our parent concerns, knock on wood, have went down.